How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Hello, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. Delighted to have you with me. The phone number, if you want to be on the show, 877-973-7425. As always, if you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, you can get the live stream, the show notes, the podcast, all that stuff. In fact, we're now, I guess somebody told me we're on odysseysradio.com and TuneIn and iHeart and everywhere else you can possibly be to get the show. No excuses. No excuses. Tune in live or in podcast. We've got to begin with the shooting in New York. This was not a story I expected to wake up to this morning. Brian Thompson is dead. For those of you who do not know him, he is the CEO of UnitedHealth. That's the big insurance company. He was fatally shot outside the New York Hilton Hotel in Midtown Manhattan prior to an investor conference beginning for it and its parent company. UnitedHealth Group is the biggest American health insurer. It is also a doctors group, has other assets. The CEO of United Health Insurance is the subsidiary of United Health Group. Right now, this is happening. Police say that the gunman used a silencer, that would be a suppressor, in the killing of the United Healthcare CEO. We do apparently know as well that a city bike was used. Now, that is important. The shooter fled on a city bike. Now, for those of you in cities around the country, you've probably seen the invasion of the scooters. And people get on scooters, and the Lime scooters, the Bird scooters. I think Uber had something for a while. Maybe they still do. You see them littering the sidewalks of American cities. You put in a credit card or you use an app and away you go. Well, in New York City, there is the City Bike phenomenon. There are bike racks all over the city of New York that Citibank sponsors the bikes, and you can hop on the bike and away you go. But a City Bike has a payment processing system and a GPS tracker. Police are also saying that this gunman not just used a suppressor. The media is calling it a silencer. It's actually a suppressor. For those of you who don't know, and apparently there are a lot of people, and I got to admit, for a very long time, I was one of those people who I saw James Bond, and they put the quote-unquote silencer on the gun, and it's pew, pew. That's all you hear. Or, my personal favorite is you put a pillow over someone's head, fold up the pillow around the gun, and pull the trigger, and it's pew, pew. That's not actually how it works. I'm sorry. It's not. Now, I have shot guns in Las Vegas with suppressors. It's not a silencer. And you still hear the bang. You don't hear the bang as loud. In fact, my favorite gun I've ever shot was a automatic machine gun with a built-in suppressor. And they actually made you take your ear protection off so you could hear how quiet it was. And it's still... that's me clapping by the microphone. So it was still like a loud clap. You still heard it. It just, your eardrums weren't blown out by it. So it's not a silencer. It still makes noise. It suppresses the sound. It doesn't silence the sound. So this guy apparently had a suppressor and then used a city bike, which is odd because it would have a GPS tracker. Some people want to speculate this is a mob hit. It was a very, very precise hit early in the morning. There is, however, someone who was seen pacing the hotel nervously. They were caught on security camera. They have an image of someone that they're looking for. The New York Police Department says it happened around 6:45 this morning. The person was using a suppressor. Oh, there's the picture. You can see he's covered. He's wearing a hoodie and a mask. He's on what appears to be a city bike. There is literally no face of the guy. However, around 6 a.m. local time, a man without credentials came to the second floor of the Hilton Hotel where there was a breakfast. He was in the building. He was seen pacing in a corporate park across the street around 6:15 a.m. Usually there's a lot of security on the second and third floor. Near a side entrance to the hotel, authorities had blocked off 54th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue with yellow tape. So clearly this was targeted. Now, Brian Thompson had been with UnitedHealth for some time and took over in 2021. He had overseen the insurance Medicare Medicaid business. He started work there in 2004, graduated from the University of Iowa. Same year I did from college, 1997, had a business degree. So this is all we know. Whoever did this scoped out where Brian Thompson would be, his route, had a planned route of exit afterwards, used a suppressor, wore a hoodie, covered his face, but apparently was seen inside the hotel. So we don't actually know all of the details beyond that. What we know is this was clearly targeted, and that in and of itself is significant. So why targeted? We don't know if this is was the guy. Was it mob? A lot of people want to speculate because it's New York City and the guy was using a suppressor. Maybe it was the mob. We don't know. What was there? Was there something in his personal life? Was it professional? Was it somebody angry about insurance? We don't know. What we do know is that this is a big deal. His total pay over the past 3 years averaged $9.92 million. His salary was $1 million in base salary, $8 million in stock and options rewards, according to a proxy statement. What a wild news story to wake up to this morning. Not exactly what I intended to talk about today. It's like, on Monday, over the weekend, thinking a lot about what am I going to start the show with, and I wanted to start the show with a freak out over Kash Patel. And, well, suddenly Joe Biden pardons Hunter Biden. And the whole news cycle, the whole news show goes upended, and we spent way more time talking about the pardon than Kash Patel. And today, woke up this morning, it's like, what am I going to talk about? I think I got to talk about Pete Hegseth and what's happening to Hegseth. I have some insider knowledge of what's happening there. And instead, the assassination, and it is essentially, it's a targeted murder. It's an assassination of the CEO of UnitedHealth Insurance. By the way, UnitedHealth Group stock is up 1.4% right now as I'm talking. Mayor Eric Adams of New York says it was a targeted murder. This was not a random act of violence. There's a lot we don't know. Anything I could say is on speculation now. I just have the facts. This person used a city bike to escape on a route. The person appears, based on what the police are saying, to have known how to go. He covered his face, wore a mask and wore a hood, used a suppressor, and clearly targeted Brian Thompson, knowing exactly where he was going to be and when he was going to be there. I suspect, given the security cameras in New York, and again, this is speculation on my part, but given the security cameras in New York, given the fact that this person apparently was in the hotel wandering about, we're probably going to be able to figure out who this person was. There's a $10,000 reward right now for information about the shooting. More information will be forthcoming from the New York City Police, but there's your big story of the day. Now, beyond that big story of the day, you should also know something is happening at the Supreme Court right now. Arguments are ongoing into the issue of Tennessee's law, and I'll spend more time on this later, and here's why. I was going to actually start the show with this in Hegseth, and I got to put this off because of one primary reason. The arguments are still ongoing in the United States Supreme Court today. The U.S. Supreme Court is hearing oral arguments right now on this law from Tennessee that prohibits children from being given medicines to delay the onset of puberty, even if parents and doctors say so. Tennessee says no. The lawyer who is arguing for the American Civil Liberties Union, Chase Strangio, is arguing and actually said on CNN last night that children as young as 2 can know they are transgendered. That is the argument. Children as young as 2 can know. No, a child can't buy cigarettes. A child can't drink alcohol. A child can't get a tattoo. But somehow a child might know that they are transgender and should be allowed to sterilize themselves, because you do understand now the overwhelming amount of evidence shows, even as there's a lot of stuff in dispute, it's not in dispute that giving girls testosterone and giving boys estrogen prior to puberty to delay puberty can ultimately permanently sterilize them. Even if they come out of it, even if it's just a phase. So that's the argument before the Supreme Court. And already, Sam Alito has completely undermined the case. About an hour ago, there was this exchange. I'm just going to read you the transcript. Sam Alito, again, Chase Strangio. Chase Strangio is a girl who now presents herself as a man, complete with facial hair, but is very clearly a woman. And Alito asks Strangio, is transgender status immutable? Strangio replies, strong biological basis would satisfy the immutability test. Alito asks again, does transgender status apply to people who are gender fluid? Strangio says yes. Do some individuals change their gender identity? Strangio says yes. Alito says, so then is it not immutable? And Strangio stammers. Amy Coney Barrett has also been deeply skeptical of the position of the trans advocates. One who is not is Ketanji Brown Jackson, who actually compared the Tennessee law to bans on interracial marriage. Not a bright person. That's happening right now. The argument was supposed to last for 2 hours. The Chief Justice allowed him to go for the third hour. I want to wait for this to play out before I comment on it. So here's what we're going to do. Going to take a time out. When we come back, I got something I want to get off my chest at the bottom of the hour. I want to navigate through the Pete Hegseth allegations. There are new allegations from NBC News that multiple people at Fox News were concerned about Pete Hegseth's drinking problem on the job at Fox News. And what's so notable about it is all the people who want to speak are anonymous. Anonymous sources. All the people who are willing to talk on the record deny it flat out. And yet we're supposed to believe the anonymous people. We're not supposed to believe the other people. It's a clear character assassination on Pete Hegseth. I have some insider knowledge, and I wish to relay that to you at the bottom of this hour. But first, when we come back, I just got to get something off my chest. AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry. Everybody's talking about it. Billions of dollars invested, so buckle up. The problem is AI needs a lot of speed and processing power. So how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing, and of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, Databricks, Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/Erickson, ERICKSON. That's oracle.com/Erickson, oracle.com/Erickson. Go check them out today. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, I want to play you a clip, and then we're going to be done with playing clips from this program. CNN has a program called Newsnight with Abby Phillip. It is allegedly a smart, sharp approach to the day's biggest stories, and yet last night They had this exchange with my buddy.
To be protecting.
This is not right.
Scott Jennings.
You cannot say Donald Trump is sending the military to round up.
That's what he said.
That is what he is saying, Scott.
That's not what I'm saying.
Totally false.
He said that.
Totally false.
That's what he said.
Scott, Trump.
We are in the
Trump
fever swamps, Andy.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
What is your dispute here? I'm not even really
Because they're saying that he's sending the military to shoot and/or round up American citizens. Not
we did
true.
not say shoot. I think
people,
the issue.
Scott.
The issue.
You said take. He just said take up arms.
Scott, why are you acting like Trump? Let me ask Elliot here. I mean,
look, I did say take up arms because when you send the army in, that's what they're there for.
Donald Trump in 2020 suggested the military would be appropriate after the George Floyd riots, but he did not actually send the military out. Tom Cotton, the New York Times, urged Donald Trump to do so, and he refused to do so. Now what Donald Trump has said is he wants to use the military to help round up illegal immigrants and get them out of the country. This panel is a group of progressives, including the moderator, Abby Phillip, versus Scott Jennings, who clearly enjoys it. I put up a note on social media this morning. You'll find it as well in my show notes that I have been asked repeatedly to come on this program, and I've had conflicts of interest, and I'm glad, and I'm flat out done. I have no desire to be on the show. It's not a good show. And I think that CNN discredits itself and clearly indicates it really is headed into MSNBC territory, where if you'll recall, MSNBC puts the token conservative on so everybody else can beat them up. And it's clearly that's what this show is. It is not informative. You actually don't come away more informed. And irregularly, what you are exposed to is a group of progressives, including Abby Phillips, who is in a progressive bubble, who is shocked when conservatives say something. In fact, with Scott Jennings, for example, even Abby Phillip tried to repeatedly correct Jennings, and she was wrong in her corrections. All of that is to say, we got to a point with Don Lemon when he was at CNN where we stopped even airing the clips because it's very clear that the clips are designed to be provocative to get buzz for a show. It's what so many people on Twitter do these days. They say a bunch of very salacious things where they pretend to be the smartest person in the room, and they're actually blithering idiots, but they've monetized their Twitter accounts. And through that monetization, they have decided to forget the truth. They just want to get attention so they can get money. And that strikes me as the show. So I'm saying it here. I'm so aggravated by CNN doing something like this. It had an opportunity to do something different. Instead, it copied MSNBC's playbook. And look at MSNBC. It's in free fall right now, and it's no coincidence CNN as well. This is a network that I like. I have friends who work there. I spent 3 great years there. They were very good to me. And I think Abby Phillip, by the way, is a fine reporter. But I think she's in over her head with this, and I think this is a terrible show. And my apologies to Scott Jennings, who does a great job on the show. I'm done. This is my last moment to talk about it. Now I want to tell you about Old Glory Bank because I wish you would consider using them as your bank. I use them as my personal bank. I have my personal checking account with them. I have my savings account with them. I was a customer of theirs before they were an advertiser on this program. In fact, I begged them for a year to advertise, and I'm delighted they have. I love them so much I've actually invested in the bank. You can get a no-fee checking, no-fee savings account there. You can get a full service as well. If you're a business, you can get a business account with them. Now, if you're a conservative business, you're not going to get canceled by Old Glory Bank. There is a debanking trend happening in Western society now, including this country, targeting conservatives. And you're not going to get canceled at Old Glory Bank because they're started by conservatives for conservatives. Go to oldglorybank.com today, oldglorybank.com, oldglorybank.com. You can fill out your account online, then and there, get it done, oldglorybank.com, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number, if you want to be on the program, although it's going to be a little while until I take phone calls because I got all sorts of stuff to talk about right now. The phone number is 877-973-7425 should you wish to be on the program. Would be absolutely delighted to have you. You can text the word Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, and you can get the live stream, the show notes, the podcast, all that great stuff. I hope you will. I do want to remind you, though, very specifically, if you text the word data to 33777, you can get a 15% discount off the annual fee for the show notes. You can subscribe for free. And you'll get my morning pieces, but we do a lot more in-depth with the show notes. Everything I talk about, a lot of the video clips I play on the show, the links to everything, it's in the show notes. And I've just made it a policy. And we always have people who call and email and say, hey, you talked about this thing. Can I get a link? And you should subscribe to the show notes. It's going to be in there. And if you can get a 15% discount, all you do is text the word data to 33777. It also makes a great gift. Makes a great gift for the Christmas season for your friends who have everything else. Now, I got to bring you up to speed on Pete Hegseth. There is a very late-breaking development. It has happened in the last 3 minutes. That's one reason you should listen to me live instead of waiting for podcast. Pete Hegseth has canceled his meeting with Josh Hawley tomorrow. Hawley would be an ally. That meeting has been canceled. We know this from Josh Hawley, not from the Hegseth team. We do not know why it was canceled. Maybe it's nothing, but given what's happening right now, it seems like it's a pretty big deal. This is Hegseth being ambushed by reporters on Capitol Hill about NBC News' report. I won't dignify that with a response. Is his response to an NBC or to somebody, I don't know that it was NBC, asking him if he's about drinking on the job. The NBC News report has all the markers of a Brett Kavanaugh hit job. Now, this is one of those areas where you got to be really careful how you talk about it in nuance. So let me start with this. Pete Hegseth has serious problems as a nominee. And I support his nomination. I want to say that, but I recognize the problems that Pete Hegseth has. Pete Hegseth has two important problems. Everything else is a pile-on. Some of it probably not true. Here are the two problems Pete Hegseth has as a nominee. Number one, there was a police report filed that Pete Hegseth sexually assaulted a woman in a hotel bedroom a number of years ago. By the way, nothing happened to it. The story doesn't make it sound like Hegseth was actually, he shouldn't have done it, but there was no assault there. He was drunk. The woman was sober. She ultimately never pressed charges. There was no prosecution. The problem is Pete Hegseth needed to disclose that to Donald Trump's investigation team into his nomination, and he did not disclose it. He clearly knew about it, did not disclose it. And I'm sorry, don't tell me you will, maybe he forgot. Not something like that. You can't in his position. You can't forget that. That's Hegseth's problem number one, failure to disclose the report. Hegseth's problem number two is this. The nonprofit groups that Hegseth oversaw and managed appear not to have done well under his management. Financially, it appears they had financial problems and other problems. And if you want to put him in charge of the biggest bureaucracy in Washington, D.C., and he couldn't handle some small nonprofits, he probably can't be the man you wish him to be to root out the problems in the Pentagon. And this is coming up from the Trump orbit. Those are Pete Hegseth's problems. He has a third ancillary problem. When Pete Hegseth was married to his first wife, he cheated on her with reckless abandon. They were married for only a couple of years. He had more mistresses than they had years of marriage. He got married a second time, had the exact same problem, cheated on his first wife with the woman he wound up marrying the second time, it appears, and then had multiple affairs against her, is married a third time now, and has multiple children. And if the timeline is right, it appears, although don't hold me to this one, but it appears he might have had affairs on his third wife as well. based on the timeline of the sexual assault report and all that. Regardless, Pete Hegseth's explanation is that he was a horrible person and he found Jesus Christ who turned around his life. If that is his explanation, you're going to be hard-pressed to have a Republican senator reject him for his prior indiscretions. If he has found he's joined a church, he and his family go to this church, he's committed to this church, and now there's an attack on him for going to this particular church because this church is it's not, I wouldn't say Christian fundamentalist, but it is tied into that Doug Wilson strain of Christian nationalism stuff, and so people are attacking him. But dude appears to have turned his life around, found Christ, got married, has a lot of kids. And it was in the past. The sexual assault allegation against Pete Hegseth at a hotel, he was drunk, the woman was sober, she was there with her husband and kids. Apparently, if the story is to be believed, she was running interference for other women who felt like Pete Hegseth was trying to get in their pants, and then he winds up having sex with this woman who was completely sober and got him to his hotel room, and then 4 days later filed a police report but then failed to file charges. That just strikes me as questionable. The last allegation, and the one that I'm very dismissive of, is the attack from NBC News right now. And that is that a lot of people, 10 sources, are not only worried about Pete Hegseth's women problems, but also that he was drunk on the job at Fox News, that he constantly smelled of liquor and alcohol, that he has complained about being hungover on the job. Here's what's notable. There is not a single person willing to go on the record and cast aspersions on Pete Hegseth about his tenure at Fox News. All 10 people are anonymous. We have literally just gone through a news cycle in the last 48 hours where anonymous sources said Joe Biden always intended to pardon Hunter Biden, and it was plotted within the White House that he would deny it until after the election and then do it. And all of the people in the press and all of the progressives out there said, well, we can't believe this. These are anonymous sources. How can we believe anonymous sources? All the people on the record are denying it. Now, here comes the Pete Hegseth story. They're like, we can't believe anybody on the record denying it. We must believe the anonymous sources. Complete opposite. This is the Brett Kavanaugh situation. We got a bunch of anonymous people. Remember, with Brett Kavanaugh, there was an ABC News story that came out that suggested beyond Christine Blasey Ford, there was another woman, happened at a restaurant, and after the restaurant, he apparently sexually assaulted this woman drunkenly, and the news media was going to interview her, and she had Michael Avenatti as a lawyer, and the whole thing fell apart. It wasn't credible. If I believe right, it was easily proven Kavanaugh couldn't have even been there at the time. But the media ran with all these anonymous sources to sabotage Brett Kavanaugh, and it didn't work. Now, I have seen several people last night and today say that what's happening here is Joni Ernst and Lindsey Graham, neocon warmongers, are trying to sabotage Pete Hegseth's nomination because they want Joni Ernst to be Secretary of Defense. I am told very reliably Joni Ernst would like to be Secretary of Defense. In fact, the Wall Street Journal has a story today that she and Ron DeSantis are both in the running for Secretary of Defense if the Hegseth nomination falls through. And I am told reliably by people I know that it's Ernst and Graham sabotaging Hegseth. And I don't believe that's actually true. I don't believe it's true for a couple of reasons. First, I am highly sourced and well-placed in conversations with individuals on the Trump transition team who themselves seem to be trying to scuttle the Hegseth nomination and push him aside before confirmation hearings. Also, if you have ever followed the pattern, The Trump team leaks to NBC News and the New York Times. Joni Ernst and Lindsey Graham like to use Manu Raju at CNN and the Washington Post. They like to leak to the Washington Post and CNN. It is Donald Trump's team likes the New York Times and NBC News. Why? Because most people will be immediately dismissive of the accusation that it would be the Trump team linking this to NBC News because NBC News is so liberal. That's why they use them. Whether it's the Trump team or not, Ernst and Graham have a habit of seeding their stories at CNN and ABC News. This is an NBC News originated story, which suggests it's not them. More importantly, again, I am very reliably told that it's people within Trump's team that are at this point working to change the president's mind on Hegseth. And the stories that are coming out are not about Hegseth, they're about Trump. My question is, who got the email from the mom? So Pete Hegseth and his mother, she wrote a very angry letter to Hegseth. And again, this was a number of years ago, like 2017, 2018, I think. And she essentially told Hegseth he was a bad man of low character, needed to clean up his life. She now says, yes, he was a bad man of low character. She was very emotional, reacting to his affairs and what she learned in the divorce, but he has cleaned up his life. She and he together tag team this. They asked her how someone could have gotten this email, and she says she might have blind copied people. That's my question. Who leaked the email? Who leaked to the New York Times the email? Remember what I said? It's the Trump team that uses the New York Times. It's the Trump team. My personal theory is that people in Trump's orbit have realized that this nomination is dead, and they want to get it out of the way as quickly as they can and move on to someone else. I don't know who that other person will be. Probably not Ernst at this point. I don't think it's going to be DeSantis. I don't think he wants it. He could surprise me. Hegseth, I think, could be a disruptor in the military, but again, this is the problem here. Pete Hegseth's two big problems are not the allegations of drunkenness. It's not the affairs of the past. It's not rebuilding his life with his third marriage. It's that the evidence suggests he wasn't competent at managing nonprofits. So how could he manage the Pentagon? And he failed to disclose something damaging in his past with candor and honesty to the Trump team, which caused him to doubt everything else. Those are his two big problems. Everything else is just a distraction to try to get senators to lock in. You will recall, I am the person who told you that about a half dozen to a dozen senators flat out refused to support Matt Gaetz. And nobody believed me, even though I talked to these Republicans and they told me there was no way in hell they were going to vote for him. They were hoping other Republicans would sabotage it so they didn't have to pick a fight with Trump publicly with a vote. And he dropped out, realizing there were no votes. I told you that. And I'm telling you now, I've talked to enough Republican senators. There are not the votes there for Pete Hegseth. And same situation with Matt Gaetz. There are people who are trying to get Hegseth to drop out now or have Donald Trump get him to drop out so that they do not publicly have to go to war with the president with a vote in the United States Senate over a cabinet pick. That's what's happening. Hegseth has baggage. Everything else is a pile-on to reinforce that baggage. All these other things are distractions like the Brett Kavanaugh allegations. The two big ones are the failure to report and the management of the nonprofits. The rest of it, it's just a pile-on. It's a nasty business, and so much of it is not true. We are watching a man be ruined in public. That's what's happening. He's turned his life around as far as I know. But there are people within the orbit of the transition who've decided he's damaged goods and doesn't have the votes, and so now they're just piling everything on to give him a signal it's time to step aside. Sad to watch. That's why politics is a nasty, nasty business. All right, I got to move on with you to Hillsdale College because those are good people, and it is a great institution, one of the best educational institutions in the country. If you go to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com, you can watch an exclusive video from Hillsdale College about their honor code and how they encourage and foster discussion, diversity of opinion, and without having people try to cancel each other. They like to challenge students' views, and they like to educate them, not indoctrinate them. And then you can get them privates completely for free. Hillsdale College, since 1844, has been educating Americans of all walks of life, wherever they are. They want to do the same for you. All you have to do is go to ericforhillsdale.com, ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com. Go check out ericforhillsdale.com today. Sign up with Hillsdale College. Begin a relationship with them. Get in Primus completely for free. Don't forget their great podcast network as well. They've got great podcasts with Hillsdale College. Eric, ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here. Y'all, I'm willing to bet it was ChatGPT. I'm willing to bet. What am I talking about? First, let me tell you this hour of the program is brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. If you're buying a building, if you're building a building, reach out to First Liberty. If you need a heavy equipment loan, reach out to First Liberty Building and Loan. They might be able to help you. They make their own lending decisions. FirstLibertyGA.com. FirstLibertyGA.com. Esquire magazine's Charles Pierce, who hates the right, despises the right. He's absolutely done his level best to cover for Joe Biden, and here's his story today. From Esquire magazine, Hunter Biden isn't the first presidential son caught up in controversy. Anybody remember Neil Bush? Nobody defines Poppy Bush's presidency by his son's struggles or the pardons he issued on his way out of the White House. The moral, shut the F up about Hunter Biden, please. That's from Charles Pierce. The story claimed President George H.W. Bush gave a presidential pardon to his son, Neil Bush. It's not true. It's not true. The column has now been pulled by Esquire. It sounds like he relied on ChatGPT or something. It's like my friend Anna Navarro got caught up claiming that Woodrow Wilson gave his brother-in-law Harry DeButts. Yes, Harry DeButts gave him a party. It wasn't true. She pulled up this list. It's got to be people are going to ChatGPT and pulling this stuff up, and it's simply not true. Garbage in, garbage out, and ChatGPT is embarrassing a number of people, including Esquire magazine's Charles Pierce. Now, ChatGPT, I should say, is my guess. It's Charles Pierce, though, who claimed that George H.W. Bush pardoned his son, Neil, and it wasn't true, and Esquire has had to apologize to pull the whole article. The amount of people willing to embarrass themselves with lies to try to defend Joe Biden. You know someone who's not willing to do that? That would be Chuck Schumer.
Yes,
do you agree with some of your Democrat colleagues who say that President Biden's pardon of Hunter Biden was wrong or unwise, puts personal interest ahead of duty?
I got nothing for you on that.
Got nothing for you on that. When we come back, let's talk about Donald Trump shattering the norms of Washington, D.C.